Welcome to episode 4 of my Tired Sandwich solo movie reviews. I am Tired Sandwich, and today we are going to do Knock at the Cabin. So, Knock at the Cabin was directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and the screenplay was also done by Shyamalan, Steve Desmond, and Michael Sherman. It's based off the book The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul G. Tremblay. This movie was very good. I actually enjoyed it. And I don't enjoy all of Shyamalan's movies. This one though was an apocalyptic psychological horror, and it really leans on the choice of the impossible choice of what would you do in this situation. Uh, the basic premise of this movie is a family, two fathers and their daughter are on vacation. Their names are Wen, Andrew, and Eric. When their vacation is interrupted by four strangers that come to their cabin to make them make an impossible choice. The choice is one of them must die for the world to live. And we proceed through the movie seeing that, are they crazy? Is this hatred? Is this something else? So yeah, when I watched this movie, I saw the trailer. It looked like a pretty good movie, and it ended up being pretty good. The characters were well done. It was, you could tell that not only were the four strangers whose names are Sabrina, Adriana, Redmond, and Leonard, were uncomfortable with the situation that they were in, but also the family itself was uncomfortable with the situation. So I think you should watch this movie. I don't think you should buy it. It's on Peacock. I would definitely suggest people watching it. I really enjoyed this movie, and I thought that the family dynamic was beautiful, that they really cared for each other, and you could tell that by the acting. Not, I guess not everybody will feel that way. I did. And also the belief that the four strangers had in what they were doing. So, yeah, that is the basic premise of the movie. I won't reveal what happens until we get to spoilers. But overall, I give this movie an 8 out of 10. I thought it was pretty good, and I know I haven't been really doing giving a movie a number. I've heard a lot of other movie reviewers say that, like, it's pointless. Like, you'll like this movie or you don't. Really, it's up to you in the end. So, yeah, if you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and end it here. I know that these are very long, these beginning parts, maybe like a couple minutes, but most of the talking, for me at least, is the spoilers. And yeah, so I think this is probably one of his better movies that I've watched recently. And I mean, you either like Shyamalan or you don't. Like, that's just kind of how it is. But yeah, let's get to spoilers. And I could say spoilers, 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 but I'll give it like a second for you to turn this off if you want to watch it first. Um, so yeah, the story of this is we get 7-year-old Wen is vacationing with her fathers, Eric and Andrew. They're in a remote cabin in rural Pennsylvania where she's catching grasshoppers. As she's catching them, a man walks up to her, played by Dave Baptista, named Leonard, who wants to join her in catching uh, these grasshoppers. Now, when he walked up, I was like, okay, little girl, run. Just run. Just get out of there. Um, but she didn't. She stayed. And Leonard said that he was there to be her friend, which made him sound very creepy. But it's okay, you know, he's just trying to catch grasshoppers, right? So as he's like talking to her, he tells her, her family's gonna have to make an impossible choice. And that him and his friends, who show up shortly after, three other people, Sabrina, Adriana, and Redmond, they show up with the weapons that these four are going to have throughout the movie. Uh, the little girl run goes to run inside, and Leonard tells her, when we come to the door, you need to tell your dads to let us in, because it will be easier that way. If not, we will find our way in. And so she runs inside. She tells her dads, who are on the back porch, like, we need to get inside, like something's wrong. So they get inside, and that's when the knock comes on the cabin door. Uh the intruders ask them to let them in, which of course, no. Why would you allow someone to come in, especially if you know that they were just talking to your 7-year-old daughter? And yeah, it's super weird. So, of course, Andrew and Eric say, no, we're not letting you in. Um, so they start locking up the cabin, and this is where you first see like Rupert Grint, who plays um, Redmond. He goes to the back, he starts breaking in. Andrew tells Eric he has a gun in his car where he where he was keeping it in a safe because he wanted to feel safe. And we don't really know at this point why he has a gun, but we get to learn about that later. So these four people, they break in eventually, of course. Um, they don't they don't mean to hurt anybody, but while getting in, Eric is shoved and gets his head hit and gets a concussion. So they tie up both Andrew and Eric, who think that it's a hate, like that it's, crime because of who they are, um, and their family. And Leonard, who seems like the leader of the group, tells him, no, we're here because you have to make a choice. You have to make the choice to either let the world die, or one of you has to die to save the rest of the world. And of course, they don't believe it. Like, why would they? I wouldn't believe, like, you're tying me up to a chair and you're telling me that for me to save the world, I have to kill one of my family members. That's ridiculous. So they say no. So the four people start explaining who they are. Leonard lets them know he was a teacher. Sabrina lets them know she was a nurse. Adriana lets them know that she was a mother who was a line cook, and Redmond works for the gas company. They don't believe it. They say they will not sacrifice anyone. And so Redmond puts his weapon down, gets in front of them, proceeds to put on a mask, and says he's scared and he doesn't want to do this. And he then gets killed by the other three. Before he gets killed, he says, or no, I think it's actually Leonard who says it. The first plague is released. So every time that one of these four people die, a plague is released on humanity. If that doesn't sound familiar to you, it's the four horsemen of the apocalypse, um, in the Bible. And in the Bible, they are called famine, uh, pestilence, war, and death. In this, they are not called that. Their shirts that the four are wearing represent the different colors of what those horsemen would be. But this is an alternative world where instead of the horsemen bringing about the end of the world like it does in the Bible, they are trying to stop the end of the world by sacrificing one of a family with pure love so that the world is saved for a moment, because they proceed to kind of tell them like this has happened before. They are not the first four. They are just the four this time, and that they get these visions. And at the beginning of the movie, you see pictures of these visions that they're having, and it doesn't really make sense at the time because it's in the like intro. But then you find out that yeah, they all got this. So the movie proceeds forward, and after Redmond's death, you find out that um well, first you find out that Eric and Andrew have had more than a couple hardships. Andrew's parents don't accept them or their love, and Andrew was attacked by a man in a bar uh, before all this, and that man happened to be Redmond. So he believes that they're there to kill them because of what happened in the bar. Leonard proceeds to tell them, "No, this isn't the case. We're here because we don't want to be here, but this is what it is. We didn't even know that you two were married or had a daughter. We just knew that we had to come here, and that the people in this cabin were the ones that had to make the choice." So, um, it's basically Leonard tells them that these things are the judgment of humanity. Redmond was the first, and they will proceed until they make a choice or the world ends. And if they don't make a choice, then the family will live long enough to see the world end, and that's it. Um, the movie moves forward pretty quickly after this. You get the second death because, of course, they're still not gonna they're not gonna fall for it. These people are psychos. There's no way that they're the ones. All the while, when Redmond died, Eric saw something in a mirror, and he believes that he was just concussed, and that's the whole thing. So he sticks with Andrew, saying, "No, it's all fake." Well, they still say no. The night passes, they choose no again, and this time it's Adriana who gets sacrificed. Um, she gets killed by the other two. All the while, they are saying, this is the second judgment of humanity. Now, when the first judgment happened, I don't know why I didn't say this earlier. Sorry. The first judgment happened, a giant tsunami hit the coast of Oregon, killing thousands of people. At first, they didn't think it was going to be anything because there was another earthquake that caused a tsunami, but it barely hit anything. But the second one went off because of the first, causing way more damage. Andrew still doesn't believe it because this happened 4 hours ago, and Leonard keeps looking at his watch, so he thinks that they knew about it before they got there and are using it as scare tactics and reasons to be able to get away with killing this family, even though they haven't harmed them yet. Um, but you kind of, as the viewer, you kind of are like, okay, is this real, or are they really, after finding out about Redmond, are they really just trying to kill this family because Redmond doesn't like them or whatever? He got put in jail because of them. um so she dies, the second one, Adriana, and this is when a plague gets released on humanity. It starts small first, and then people die in droves, and they see it on the news that it's just happening everywhere. People are just dying from this plague. But Andrew still doesn't believe it. Eric keeps his mouth shut, but Andrew says that I've read about this before. This is just a paper. It's just a flu virus. And he doesn't believe it. And so Baptista, Leonard, and Sabrina, they keep trying to convince him. Doesn't work. Andrew will not have any of it. He thinks they are there because of Redmond, and they're just falling into his delusion. which is understandable. I was kind of with Andrew on most of this movie that they're just crazy. But I know that Shyamalan likes to do stuff like that in his movies. So, it could be either or. So after that, they, in between the second death and I think the next part, Gwen escapes for a little. She gets caught, she gets brought back. No one's allowed to leave. And this is when later the dads have kind of gotten loose. Andrew's hands are loose, and Wen gets told to act like she did during a holiday party. And the other father, Eric, he gets a knife and he starts cutting himself free. Um, and so while Wen's distracting Leonard, who is a teacher, so he's trying to calm her down, Andrew gets loose. He walks to his car. Sabrina follows him. They tussle. He gets a hold of his gun and he points it at her. She runs away. He goes back in to save his husband from Leonard. And he gets Leonard to move, but all the while Sabrina runs back in and he shoots her. So he kills Sabrina, not knowing, like, he didn't mean to kill her. He just, like, turned to shoot because she was running at him. He, like, loses his focus. He freaks out. He points the gun down. Leonard goes over and does the whole, another plague on humanity, and then kills, like, finishes killing Sabrina. At this point, planes start falling from the sky. Hundreds of planes. And they're causing explosions everywhere. And Leonard says, and God's hand will fall and his fingers will cause ash upon the land or something like that. I don't know the exact words that he used. And so at this point, Andrew he still doesn't believe it. Even after all of it, even after he's seeing it on TV, everything, he doesn't care. He's not willing to sacrifice his family, which I don't blame him. Who wants to make that who can make that impossible choice? It's an impossible choice. What do? You can't. It's the person he loves most and his daughter. Like, what? There's no answer for humanity. And he even says it, like, for humanity, no, forget it. He even says, like, forget them. I'd rather the whole world die than lose my family. And I don't blame him. I feel the same way. And so we get towards the conclusion, and Leonard says, "Can we go outside for this?" And, like, right before that, there's a little scuffle. Leonard gets put in the bathroom. He pretends to escape. Then Eric and Andrew go back into the bathroom. Andrew shoots inside the shower because he thinks, like, Leonard might be in there. He misses. Leonard jumps out, takes the gun from him, and he tells both of them, like, can we go outside for this last part? Eric takes Wen and tells Wen, hey, go up into your treehouse and we'll come get you when all this is done. So she goes up in the treehouse, and Eric and Andrew confront Leonard. Leonard tells them, before I die, you'll have a couple minutes after to save the world, but you need to make the choice. Will you make it before I have to do this? And Andrew says no. And Eric kind of just stands there, but Andrew says no. So Leonard ends his life. And at this point, you see, like, a storm brewing, like a really bad storm. And Eric and Andrew are talking, and Eric says, I saw something in that mirror. I saw something. You get a little bit of reference to Eric's background being from some kind of religious family. And he says, I know what I saw, and you have to do this. And Andrew refuses. He doesn't want to kill his husband. And Eric says, I'm ready. He's like, do it while I have this beautiful vision in my mind of our daughter grown with her own practice. And, you're there and you guys are safe and living. And it was really sad. It was a really sad moment for them. And I felt their pain for having to make this choice, which no one should ever have to make. And I feel like Shyamalan did really good at that point. I don't know how other people felt, but me personally, I felt their pain as loving each other so much that neither one of them wanted to be without the other. But Eric knew he had to make the choice because he wanted his daughter to live, which I kind of called it before I even wrote it down that Eric was going. I actually thought Eric was going to kill Andrew to save their daughter, but I knew something was going to happen where one of them would die so that Wen could live because Wen is their adopted daughter. I should have said this earlier, but I forgot to. And you see a thing of Wen getting adopted by them, and Eric kind of lying about that they're not husbands to get Wen. I don't know why that was there, but it was. And so they made this beautiful family with their adopted daughter um who was growing and inquisitive and nice, and their family's love was pure. And Leonard at one point says in the movie, like, oh, I think your family was chosen because your love for each other is so pure. And so Andrew eventually kills Eric, which is another choice that, like, it's an impossible choice. Like, now thinking about it, how do you choose that? How do you make that? Nobody wants to make that choice. That's not, it's an impossible choice. But he does it. And they find Redmond's truck and they drive to uh, a cafe or whatever, side of the road. I can't think of what the word is. And they go inside, and the news basically says everything stopped. The waters receded, the plane stopped. And you kind of knew before this that it was real, that it was all real. But at this point, you know for sure that everything that they said was real and that he stopped the end of the world for now. As I said before, it seems like this wasn't the first family to have to make the choice, and it probably won't be the last. But they get back in their car. Well, not their car, Redmond's car. He sees that they were all telling the truth except for Redmond about his name. Redmond probably changed his name for good reason because he was in jail for assaulting for assaulting Andrew at a bar. And Andrew and Wen drive off to that future that Eric saw for them, and that's where the movie ends. There was no, like, didn't they survive? There was no um you know thing of after, like, in the happening where the grass moves or whatever. It was just, you know, I think my camera went out of focus right there, so I'm sorry if it did. There was just the end. They saved the world, but at what price? And that's the thing that got me, is, and it took me a while. I did a first video of this, and I didn't really like it, so I had to do another one. And the thing that I had to think about and contemplate about for like an hour after this movie is, how do you live with that choice? How do you live, like, Eric saw this great future for his family, Wen and Andrew, this future, but Wen's never gonna live down that her dad died. Andrew's never gonna, forget that he had to kill his husband to make this future happen. Like, that impossible choice will leave a scar with them forever. And like, how do you get past that scar? How do you get past that pain? Like, yeah, pain, time, whatever, pain ends pain. But I mean, time doesn't always make your memories go away. So that was something that hit me watching this movie is like, what was the aftermath? Like, Shyamalan didn't show the aftermath, and maybe there was none. Maybe they were fine. They listened to their favorite song on the radio as they're driving away. But that's just the end. The scar tissue that comes with it, we don't get to see. And maybe there isn't any. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I'm, you know, being cynical. But I know that for me in that situation, it would be hard for me to look past what happened in that cabin and be able to just move on to this happy future. So, you let me know what you think. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of this movie. Um, but overall, the acting in this movie was amazing. Batista, Jonathan Groff, Ben Alabridge, Nikki Amuka-bird, Kristen Chute, or I don't know how to say the last name, Abby Quinn, Rupert Grint, they did great. I felt for all of their pain, all of their stuff. It was a fantastic movie. Um, yeah, and Shyamalan, good job. I mean, some of the stuff in there was different, like the horsemen. The names of them are different. Showing I think they said the aspects of humanity is what the four people showed them, which is different than what the horsemen of the apocalypse are. But I mean, they basically were kind of like that, but like Shyamalan's version. And yeah, Steve Desmond, Michael Sherman, you guys wrote a great screenplay, in my opinion. And I've never read The Cabin at the End of the World, but maybe I will now. So yeah, this movie, I don't know if it was a success or not. Yeah, so it had a budget of 20 million. It made 54 million. So I mean, it's not bad. It got like a 64 on Rotten Tomatoes. Um, I don't really like Rotten Tomatoes though. No offense, Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sure you're great, but I feel like they under underdo films sometimes because they get in their heads too much. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you liked this film. If you didn't like this film, let me know. Just comment. Just say, no, it wasn't for me. Um, I hope you liked the video. And as always, bear hug. I love all you guys. Good night.